and we are going to take you through some things this afternoon, a couple of updates, some reminders, and then kind of go from there. Okay, next slide. So for those of you who feel like we are back where we started, or as I can't remember who it was, one of the old baseball players used to say, it's deja vu all over again. We are, back to where we started in March of 20, putting health and safety needs first, the needs of students and their families and our school and district staff before compliance, and reminding everyone, Yogi Berra, thank you, Brian. I kept trying Joe DiMaggio and I knew that wasn't right. I tried Mickey Mantle and I knew that was even less right. Yogi Berra. And then just a reminder that we can't emphasize the need, once again, for frequent and clear communication to families. I think that that is what, in a lot of cases, was our saving grace when all of this started, and I think this will continue to serve us well and be critical as we move forward. So for those of you who think this sounds familiar, this is what we started out talking about a while back. It will soon be March 2 years ago. All right, next slide. I'm sure that many of you have already looked at the United States Department of Ed's Return to School Roadmap. There are several markers on that roadmap that additional guidance has been given for, but just ensuring that these were some of the important milestones to look at: vaccinations for ages 12 and up, summer learning, the safe reopening of schools, mental health support being critical, and addressing lost instructional time. We will try to put the link in the chat to this. There is good information in that. As with everything else, we have to tailor it to meet our unique needs, not only in South Carolina, but in our districts and sometimes in our schools. Next slide. There were 3 landmarks that the roadmap emphasized. One is prioritizing the health and safety of students, school personnel, and families. The second was building school communities and supporting students. And I would add to that school and district personnel's social, emotional, and mental health. And then the third was accelerating learning. And that's that addressing lost instructional time. Next slide. There really is not an update on the Office for Civil Rights investigation or the lawsuit filed by the American Civil Liberties Union. The ACLU lawsuit was filed on October 24th, and the lawsuit alleges that the ban passed by the legislature effectively excludes, if everyone could mute, the ban excludes vulnerable students from public schools and disproportionately impacts students with underlying health concerns or disabilities who may be at risk of becoming seriously ill if they contract COVID. And you'll notice that that speaks to not only students with disabilities, but students without disabilities, any student who might have some type of underlying health condition. On August 30th, the United States Department of Ed started a civil rights investigation against South Carolina and 4 other states over, once again, the legislature's decision to prohibit mask mandates in public schools. You've probably seen the news to know that several districts are making decisions that the district considers in the best interest of their students. And this all revolves around the Proviso 1.108, which is the mask mandate. And so both the American Civil Liberties Union and the Office for Civil Rights are looking into that mandate. Next slide. Barbara Drayton in our Office for General Counsel drafted a memo that went out to all superintendents. It is on the State Department's website that just reminds districts to be considerate of the requirements not only of IDEA, but also of ADA in Section 504 when looking at whether a mask mandate is necessary for certain individuals in the educational instructional setting. There may be instances when a mask mandate should be considered necessary for specific students who or individuals who are providing instruction or come into contact with students who are medically fragile, have those underlying health conditions, or who are otherwise at significant risk for medical conditions that make them more susceptible to a serious illness related to COVID. Those considerations are consistent across the board with the prevention guidance from the CDC and from the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Next slide. When a school or district or class is considering a mask mandate or any other accommodation or prevention strategy that's necessary to meet a student's individual and unique needs, when you're considering equal access to and the ability to benefit from education, those decisions have to be made based on that particular student's unique needs on a case-by-case basis. Those decisions should be made by the student's IEP team, 504 team, or another group of individuals who are knowledgeable about the student's impairment or condition. These decisions, just as any other decisions related to these issues, cannot be made based on state or local across-the-board policies, procedures, practices, or prohibitions, but have to be made based on a student's unique needs. Again, there is a memo that is on the Department of Ed's website that has this specific language in it. And a press release last week or week before from Superintendent Spearman stated that South Carolina students and educators deserve to teach and learn in a safe environment. Getting vaccinated, wearing a face mask, and following the proper mitigation strategies will allow us to have the most uninterrupted normal school year possible. All right, next slide. And I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Williams-Young, our finance team lead.
Good afternoon, Becky. I hope everyone is well. Just wanted to let the LEA directors know that we will be having a PPPSC session for all directors on September 13th. So all of you should have received an invite for that, and you will be receiving a reminder as well. But those are all the updates I have today. Thanks.
And for those of you who need a reminder as to what PPPSC is, it's Parentally Placed Private School Children. And in South Carolina, we consider students who are homeschooled, not students who are at home in a virtual school setting, but students who are homeschooled. We treat those the same way we treat parentally placed private school children. Carolyn?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the issues surrounding Indicator 12. Um, as of now, the issues still is unresolved within the Enrich system. Our workaround is that we sent an email back on August 20th asking all districts to resubmit indicators 11 and 12. And knowing what those issues are, we are working directly with those districts to get the correct information, just so that we're able to move forward with the request. What I can tell you is that the issues varied from district to district. It was no rhyme or reason as to what they were experiencing. So I would strongly recommend that you please double check your data before you submit to us. If there's anything that looks suspicious with your data, it's good to let us know, but I need you guys to also get that ticket into Enrich Submit, regardless of what it is or how small you think it is. We are realizing that little nuances turn into big issues later on down the road. So we want to strongly encourage you to submit those tickets to Enrich so that we can get it documented in the system as sooner rather than later. I can tell you that as of right now, we thought we had 100% submission with indicator 11, but we still have one district who's unable to submit their indicator 11 and 2 districts that are still unable to resubmit or submit for indicators 12, and we are working directly with those districts, and we're going to do our best to start getting that information back out to you guys. So if you are aware, some districts did go ahead and tell us what their issues was within their data before submitting to us, and so we're going to try to get all of that into the master document before we send back out to you guys requesting clarification on any anomalies that we see within the data. I did also want to tell you guys about a newfound issue with the parent survey, and that is on the document that you provide to the parents. The user permission they need, and when they are when the document is being printed for the parents, the user permission has to be set to view rights. Otherwise, the survey code is going to be hidden. So after this call this afternoon, I will be sending something to you, to the directors, as well as the Enrich contacts within the DEEM system, letting them know that the user's permission role needs to be set to view rights in order for the survey code to be displayed on the printed document. Otherwise, it's just going to say survey code and then hidden. Just a couple of other reminders that on Thursday, August 9th at 9 a.m., we will be having a webinar for indicators 4, 9, and 10 for those districts that were identified. So we will plan to give you more insight as to what next steps are for that. And our monthly data reporting meeting is August 16th, next Thursday at 10 a.m. And that's it for data reporting updates. Oh, I see a clarification, September 9th and September 16th. Sorry about that.
All right, I'm up with indicator 13. Can you hear me? Perfect. Okay. As everyone's aware, we are required to monitor for indicator 13, which is where we look at the transition goals, the student's IEP. This year, we will be monitoring all districts, and we will require the larger district to submit 5 IEPs, medium districts 3 IEPs, and smaller districts 2 IEPs. Our goal over the next few years is to look at who's doing it well and who's needing more support, and tiering our support with the indicator 13 as well. We've created a district self-assessment that we'll be sending out after this call. This is the exact same checklist that we will be using to monitor the IEPs in our office. So we're requesting that you do the self-assessment prior to sending it to us. In addition to the IEPs, as part of our new LEA determinations, you will submit the student's schedule. And as we monitor the IEPs, we will be looking at the student's schedule to ensure that the student's schedule aligns with the goals. All of that, the IEPs and the student schedule will need to be submitted by October 1st. And in that email that we're going to send out after the call, we'll send the processes for submitting these documents. And I think Kim is going to talk about the credential.
Yes, thank you, Jill. As a result of a collaborative effort among many offices, students now in the South Carolina High School Credential can now be considered career ready. This is a really wonderful thing, as we've worked really hard through the years for this. And this is a change, and we want to take a look at the career ready qualifiers. And for the career ready qualifier, that red box must be checked in PowerSchool, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And this is to ensure that students can be counted in that accountability system and the LEA report card. So let's take a look at the criteria. A student is deemed career ready, and this mirrors the Office of CTE. It can be a CTE completer earning that national industry credential or state industry credential, or earn a silver or better on the career readiness assessment, the WIN, or the ready to work. As we know, with the credential, it's required that the student earn a bronze, but if the student earns a silver or greater, then that student can be considered career ready as a career ready qualifier. Or if the student earns a scaled score of 31 or higher on the ASVAB, the student can be considered career ready through the career ready qualifier. And then lastly, successfully completes the state approved work-based learning exit evaluation from the employer. This involves that agreement evaluation plan that you must have in order for the internship, that 40 hours. So this is a way, this is a win-win here with this one, because all students are going to be working with this in the credential. Looking at that training agreement, defining those objectives, the 40 hours aligned to the IGP and IEP, of course, aligned to the post-secondary goals, and that evaluation and that minimum of 1 unit in the pathway. And that 1 unit is the employability education courses. So it can be employability education 3 or 4. So with that, these are career ready qualifiers, and it's important to ensure that your schools know this information so that they can enter through on PowerSchool on the work-based learning page. This way, the career ready qualifier can be entered in that red box, and this will allow for reporting and to be a check for accountability and report card purposes. That's all I have for now. We are going to work with CTE. We've already started the conversation this week. We're going to create a module to post on the credential website for, I think, to help us along with this. Feel free to reach out to myself or to Chris Napper on the PSO team. We'll be glad to assist you.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your RCAs. For those districts who are tiered, your RCAs are due September 30th. The link to the RCA, if in case you can't find the one that was sent to you, is on our OSIS webpage. You can click on either early childhood, social emotional, post-secondary, or academic page. They all have a SOTA link page on there. So you click on the SOTA link, you'll find the timeline, you'll find the RCA, you'll find all kinds of good information if you need a little refresher about the process and what's going on with it. It'll all be on there for you to kind of look at. And just so you know, for the RCAs this year, all 4 focus areas are on one form now. So there won't be 4 different forms for you to fill out. And when you're all done with your RCA and we receive it, your cohort manager will send you a copy of your completed form in PDF format so that you have it to look at and go back to.
Good afternoon. And as we continue throughout our SOTA process or through our new SOTA process, support is on the way. So the Office of Special Education Services would like to let you know that our professional development and training learning portal is ready. We will start rolling out our first round of courses in just a few short weeks. So directors, we just want you to keep an eye on your email, because we will be sending out emails directly to the directors with more instructions in terms of how to access the OSIS Learning Portal, how to register for courses, and how to get credit for those courses as well. There will be several courses starting. Our first round of courses are a significant disproportionality 1 and 2 course, a reading 101 course, an indicated 13 course, and a COSIF course. These courses will both will run twice. It will be a fall 1 session and a fall 2 session. So basically each course will run for about 2 to 3 months. The courses really only take, the average course maybe only takes about 2 to 3 days to a week to complete, but we have given you all significant amount of time, well, whoever's going to be completing the courses, but we have provided significant amount of time for completion of the courses, just because we know a lot is going on right now in terms of school and starting school and, you know, different things with COVID and everything like that. So you have ample time to complete the courses. So don't be worried about not being able to make it through the courses with everything else going on, because we know this is kind of new. But just some of those fall session dates that we want to remind you of. Fall session 1 will be invite only. So basically that would be for the SPED directors and the teachers that they see fit needs to take those courses. So we will send those invites directly to the SPED directors for them to forward on as needed. Registration for courses will start on September the 9th, and that's for fall session 1. And registration will run from the 9th through the 20th of September. So that's about 2 weeks of registration. And again, you'll get all that information on how to register and course codes and everything starting tomorrow. On September the 21st, the course will actually open, and the course again will run like a month. And these are really short courses, with the exception of the significant disproportionality course. And if you all are a district that will be taking those courses, you will be getting a second set of instructions and some more detailed information about that on next week. But with exception to that course, all courses will run from September the 21st till October the 29th. And then fall session 2 courses will open, and we'll give dates for those as they come. And those will be kind of on a first come, first serve basis. So again, fall session 1 will be invite only, and then fall session 2 will be on a first come, first serve basis. Also, additional sessions and courses will be open as we move forward and we're able to produce more courses. Any close?
Sorry, Shannon. I was just going to say we're really excited about these courses. And when we use the word course, we're not, traditionally I think of a course as being a semester long or a year long or 6 weeks. These courses are going to be very intentionally tailored to meet districts' needs. Initially for the districts that data indicate need more targeted or intensive support, but our goal is to develop courses that can be accessed by anyone at any time. And we hope that this will be a way to get information to you, to have it readily available, and a way to make more effective use of your time. Shannon, can we go back to the course offerings, that slide?
Well, and I think it's important to emphasize as well that a lot of these are meant for your teachers or your staff. So please also don't think that we're just creating all these things that you guys are going to have to do individually. That's not at all the intention. It's that we'll be able to deliver professional development for your teachers, for you to help you with your teachers as well.
We do want feedback on what you think worked and didn't work in the courses. And as we move forward, we'll be asking for topics or areas that you feel like your your teachers or your staff need more information on. And Shannon will be able to give reports on completion, won't we?
Yes. Yeah, they'll receive a certificate. They'll be able to get renewal credits.
Becky, this is Wendy Stoudemire. The first round says it's invitation only. But I'm very curious about what the Reading 101 course is and how do we determine who needs to see that? I can't think of a soul that doesn't need to know more about the teaching of reading, as well as COSEF. Will we not all have access to that to share with our teachers? Because mine are asking for a picture to know who and when to do the ending one based on we keep more kids probably in PCD than we should. So can we have access to those?
Yes, we will. And those actually have a lot more seat room. The reason why we're kind of doing it in phases is because right now we have a limited amount of seat space. But the COSEF course, all of that will be based on the data. So basically those needs districts will get it first. But as far as the indicator 13, there's a lot of seats. You will be able to forward it to your teachers in terms of who you think needs it. And you'll see it in the invite. It'll tell you like what the limit is. Like based on your district size, it may be like 20 seats based on your district, or it could be 50 seats. So there'll be plenty of room in those courses that are kind of needed on a universal basis for a lot of teachers to get in. Yeah, and if we need to open up another section and the need is just there, it'll be easy for us to just open up another section.
And that universal information on COSEF, we're working to review and revise as needed with that. This is the COSEF Child Outcome Summary Form and preschool outcomes in general is what our early childhood focus team is really working on to try to make that data easy to gather and useful to teachers and districts, and not just to report it because the state has to report it to OSEP. That's probably the most complicated, complex, convoluted indicator we've got with all those ratings and everything. So we are working with one of the national TA centers to try to simplify that. And ultimately, like I said, we want that information to be useful to districts. We don't want it to be collected and reported on simply because it has to be collected and reported on. So that general information will be up on the website. And then, as Shannon said, we do have seat limits or number limits for these courses. And so we had to kind of prioritize who got first crack at them, but we also wanted to make sure that the generic information was out there for everybody. The reading course would be, the first round would be for districts whose data indicated they maybe were in more need of support in that area than others. But again, we know that this, or we hope this is information that will be good for everyone. It's just having to prioritize because of those seat limits at this point. And Shannon, somebody's asked if the courses will be synchronous or asynchronous.
They will be synchronous. Yep, self-paced and self-facilitated.
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous, sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
So no check-in time. Exactly. Community practice, discussions, self-graded quizzes. And
we tried to work with the virtual SC folks to structure what we were doing similar to the format of their courses. So any of you who have taken any of the virtual SC courses, any of the Read to Succeed courses or any of the virtual SC courses, I think we'll find the format is very similar. And as Shannon said, you can get renewal credit for these. Other questions or comments?
I don't know if this is for everybody, but this is Wendy Height in Spartanburg District 5. And I guess I'd just like to talk through my scenario that I have a parent that's requesting that all children in the classroom that her children are in wear masks. And the children have asthma. They're not on a 504 plan, but I just didn't know if anyone else has faced that and kind of how you would talk through that process.
Has anybody else dealt with that situation where you've got a parent requesting that all the other children in the classroom wear masks because of that individual child's health risks?
Yes, this is Susan. We have that, and we have a meeting this week, actually tomorrow. The IEP team's going to talk about it, and kind of our process is discussing what the child needs, what the parent concerns are, what the school's doing to mitigate and ensure safety for all, because they have things in place, and then talk about reasonable accommodations for this specific child. At this point, the one that we have does not have an IHP, so we're not looking at, when we look at health needs, we kind of wanted to go that route. So looking at what we have, we're talking about reasonable accommodations to access the curriculum and not ensuring that we're not going to do a blanketed statement, because that would put restrictions on other children who it may not be appropriate or potential violation of their rights. So we're going to take it by a case-by-case basis and document it. But this is definitely a huge concern, and there are legal battles in front of, I think, all of us, and everyone's watching and waiting of who kind of it happens to first, unfortunately. And this is a school that we have that's in the city of Columbia, where the mask mandate, the Supreme Court knocked that down. So the law is an absolute opposite of what the parent and some of the Fed messaging is coming from. So everything is very contradictory of each other, but we're taking it as an IEP reasonable accommodation discussion.
Thank you.
And Susan's right. These are things that when we were still under the state of emergency, we didn't have to deal with, because the state of emergency allowed for county councils or independent bodies to determine that a mask mandate was appropriate. And I will point out that if any of you watched or read the testimony with the state Supreme Court that Susan mentioned, one of the sticking points seemed to be how the mask mandate would be enforced if it was allowed in the schools or within the city. And there evidently wasn't a very clear answer to that. Someone mentioned, well, the fire marshal could enforce it. And of course, then the justices ask, how will one fire marshal go into a school and enforce a mask mandate and all of that? So Susan's very right. These are things that we did not have to face when all of this started. And anything that we can do from our office, we will be glad to do. If you want to talk through a specific situation, you are welcome to call. We can pull folks together depending on the particulars of that situation. This is different, but we are firmly committed to assisting districts and schools as you move forward and doing what's right for students and their families. Elizabeth asked if they could get specific information on the breakdown of the COSEF data. We will be glad to get that to folks as soon as we figure out how to make it useful. The COSEF was designed to be a measure of the outcome of services for students with disabilities who are in that preschool setting. So you have your entry COSEF, that's sort of your baseline or your pre-test, and then you have an exit COSEF for when that child exits preschool age services, or if the child is reevaluated, no longer needs special ed, exits special ed altogether prior to turning 5 on or before September 1st. So that the COSEF was supposed to be that measure of how well you're doing with preschool services. Again, it's probably, not probably, it is the most convoluted indicator. States have complained about it from the very beginning. States had really hoped that OSEP with this new package for the SPP APR would have made some changes in that, and they did not. So I think you will see states taking more and more control to make those data understandable and usable.
Becky, this is Elizabeth Render again. In regards to that, I'm talking more about like when the determination is made based on the data we've sent in. We don't always get any kind of clear data return to say these were the ones we used, this is what we got, this is how we got your score. Typically, we've just gotten the score when we get our determinations at the end of the year. So I was hoping if we could get that information sooner and know exactly which students are being used and how it's being determined, we could use that information to better complete the COSEFs as we go on throughout the school year.
So yes, we will, in trying to make these data make sense to district, what we're required to do is to use we'll develop a type of reporting rubric that we can send back to districts, so you'll know what students are captured in that. We also are going to pull together a group that will talk about how do we ensure consistency if folks are using different measures. And I know that that's with the long time ago, some of you will remember this, we had one measure for COSEF, and that was the AEPS. And all districts were trained to give the AEPS. Our BabyNet folks even used it for their entry and exit, and then theoretically, their exit COSEF was actually our entry COSEF. Districts were provided with training and with the AEPS. We've gotten away from that, so we are exploring other options that could be used by districts, not just for entry and exit, but for progress monitoring or benchmarking along the way. But we will get data back to you so that Carolyn, help, is this something that Enrich pushes up, or that districts push into Enrich and pushes up to us?
Yes, ma'am, it is. And I know that one of the things that we're working on is a resource locator or indicator that tells districts or helps districts with other sources that they could use the data for, as well as the individual breakdown for the COSEF is found on the profile portion of their IDEA data profile pages.
But what we can do is once we get it pushed up, we can look to see how we can make that data more usable, more user-friendly, I guess more accessible.
It will definitely come to them in a more user-friendly format.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Becky, this is Wendy Stoudemire again. In our mandated videos and things to do with back to school with the school district, like bloodborne pathogens and all those good ones, We had a SCASA video that we watched this year, and Story and White did it. And I've heard so many different things over the years about transportation. 5 years ago, I was told that it was not a denial of FAPE unless transportation was in their IEP. What I understood that to be said in this year was it said nothing about whether or not it was in the IEP. It was if you take the child off the bus and they can't get to school with mama bringing them, then it's a denial of FAPE. I was also previously under the impression that mama bringing them didn't get us off the hook. We had to provide an alternative way, or it was a denial of FAPE and those days counted against us. Can we get some updated guidance from you all? You're muted, Becky.
Thank you. So what you have to do is to think about it as a related service. Does the child need transportation in order to benefit from special education services? If transportation is what is keeping him out of school, then the IEP team may need to consider that. But we'll run that past Barbara to get something in writing. But typically, if it's transportation that's keeping that child from accessing his SPED services, then you would need to consider transportation as a related service. It's not just when the kid may be zoned for elementary school A, but the program and services he needs are located in elementary school B. That's not the only time that transportation would need to be provided.
Okay. Thank you for working on getting something from Barbara, because over the years, I've just had different attorneys that I've worked with, and I feel like it depends, and I just want to know what the State Department would say.
Well, and you mentioned the two key words, attorneys phrases, attorneys and it depends.
Yes, I agree.
All right, if there are no other questions, you've got almost 20 minutes back. The next open office hours will be the 22nd at 1 o'clock. I think you have a cohort meeting in between there. As always, if you have questions, if you want to run something by us, please don't hesitate to call, email, or reach out. And if there's anything that we can do to support what you're doing, please let us know, because that's why we're here. We're here to support what you're doing. I hope everybody will stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.